Hey folks, and welcome back. So, after the last video and the last blog post, we are still waiting on Watcher doing his Q&A with Lore. That's a full 2 weeks after the no flight announcement that we're actually going to be getting to speak to and deal with the devs, in this case Watcher, who did the interview in Polygon originally, and actually get some answers and find out what the hell is going on, why are they doing this, and why are they removing one of the most unique features of this MMO, because there aren't a lot of other MMOs actually have flight in them. So why it has that as a pretty unique feature at the moment. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV is bringing out flight in the next expansion, which is due in the end of June. However, in 6.2, looking at it, there isn't a hell of a lot to get very excited about. Largely, the entirety of Tanaan Jungle, it just seems like one large Apexis grind. You're just going into areas in Tanaan, and again, you're just filling up that blue bar. Kill this, kill that, collect this, collect that. And that's really all it seems to be at the moment, is just collecting Apexis crystals over and over again. The ironic thing is, the biggest splurge that you can spend your Apexis crystals on is a flying mount. Seriously, Blizzard, are you taking the piss? In an expansion where you have disallowed flight and announced that you're no longer allowing flight going forward, you're having us grind out these fucking crystals over and over and over again the entire length of the expansion. And then for 150,000 Apexis crystals, you can buy a flying mount. Seriously. As well as that, there are, of course, the Hellfire Citadel item level changes screwing over certain classes, which means certain classes will get the maximum item level weapon, whereas others won't. They'll be like 10, 15 item levels behind at best. So, with all that's happened with World of Warcraft over the past week to 10 days, I decided to start taking a look at a couple of other MMOs, just to see, because I have cancelled my World of Warcraft subscription. There's another 3 to 4 months left to run on it, and I may or may not stick out the rest of Warlords. My original intention was to stick around and pay out the rest of Warlords with WoW tokens, because I have like 10 times the amount of gold I need to do that. But at the moment, it's just getting to the point where I don't see why I should, really. My guild has plenty of cover in tanks, and I'm not really getting the opportunity to play on my hunter, because every time I'm available to raid I have to tank, despite the fact we have like 3 other tanks in the guild, so I'm not really getting to do much of anything I want with raiding at the moment. So with that in mind, I've been trying out a couple of new MMOs. One is Final Fantasy XIV, which, as I mentioned earlier, has an expansion due in the end of June 23rd, called Heavensward, or Heavensward, whatever way you want to pronounce it. And the other one is Wildstar. Wildstar, of course, over the last couple of days announced that it was going free to play in the autumn, and for full details of what that will entail, check out the link in the description. So first off, Final Fantasy XIV, like I said, it has a new expansion, Heavensward, coming on June 23rd, and that will of course bring flight into that game, so WoW will no longer be as unique a snowflake as it was. Playing the first 10 to 15 levels, it's a decent game, it's solid, it's good. It's very straight-laced though, it's very serious, very po-faced. There are light touches of humour throughout, as usual with Final Fantasy, likes of Moogles and Chocobos and Kupo this and Kupo that. But for the majority of it, it is very, very straight-laced and very serious and very grim. Not grim, but it's lacking in humour even compared to WoW. And even WoW over the past year has become very, very po-faced and very grim. Of course, Final Fantasy XIV carries all other hallmarks of Final Fantasy games, such as crystals and materia, chocobo races at the Golden Saucer, and so on. One major plus in Final Fantasy XIV is that you can actually switch classes at any time, so you only ever need to roll one character. So you can start the game as a Sword and Shield warrior, and you can finish it as a healing white mage. It's fairly unique, and it's actually very, very good. I know Rift does something similar where you can switch classes, but the implementation in this game is fairly good. It's well thought out, and it gets very, very deep towards endgame, from what I hear. Travel is quick and fast and convenient. It's all done by Ethernet. Now, the Ethernet is a series of crystals throughout the various towns and areas, and the maps are basically hub areas. All the maps are hub areas, so you'll eventually hit a loading screen when you go from one area to another. It's not like WoW where there's one large continent and you can just go from one end to the other. The maps are sort of hub areas. You basically go from one to the other. So these Ethernet crystals, they are dotted throughout each map, and there are tons of them. So you never actually have to run too far to your destination as long as you've unlocked that particular crystal, and you have to basically right click on it once to attune yourself to that crystal. Once you've done that, you can travel back to that crystal at any time. The maps, however, are large enough They're big and they're fairly complex in layout, so you do need to keep your map handy at all times. Combat in the game it's pretty straightforward MMO fare. You target or click on a mob and your action bar abilities will hit it as long as you're in range and facing. There's no real dynamic feel about the combat, it is just your straightforward WoW-like rotational based system, where if you click on a mob you never lose that target unless it like stealths or vanishes or whatever. Now Wildstar on the other hand is completely different. It's a lot more colourful, as you can see. The art style is very cartoony. Similar to WoW, but even more so. It's completely 180 from the likes of Final Fantasy XIV, which is a bit more realistic, even though you're playing as cat people there, like, but the art style is gorgeous. It's just beautiful. Like I said, it's very bright and colourful and brash and bold, and it's just gorgeous to look at. The combat in Wildstar is completely different to any other MMO I've played. It's similar to Terra, I'll give it that. It is similar to Terra, but Terra's not a game I actually really played all that much. I played the demo, the first few levels, and that was it. It's similar to Terra in that it is a lot more dynamic and it's actually player skill based, because it requires you to actually aim your abilities and time them in conjunction with one another. There's no flight as such that I've seen, which puts it on a par with WoW at the moment. But the Explorer path, which is the one I've taken from my main character, it offers unique missions and separate leveling path to your actual character's levels, and it offers unique missions and abilities that actually reward proper exploration and doesn't actually just pay lip service to it with a single achievement or a treasure here and there. There is actual gameplay involved in being an explorer in this game. There's also a lot more humour. It's a lot funnier than either WoW or Final Fantasy XIV. Well, farting wet spacesuits is a lot funnier than Final Fantasy XIV, to be honest with you. But the game generally it's a sort of a Wild West flavour mixed in with futuristic tech and ancient alien lore. So of the two, which would get my recommendation? Well, you could probably tell already, but I was originally considering taking up a Final Fantasy XIV subscription because Flight was coming in, and it's a solid game, it's popular, and it's well supported by Square Enix. But that was until I played Wildstar. I bought the deluxe edition of Wildstar, despite the fact it's going free to play in a couple of months, but I wanted to support Carbine. I was going to take up the Final Fantasy XIV subscription and play it, but then I played Wildstar and changed my mind. Wildstar, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It requires skill and ability, and the combat telegraphing system is fairly unique, and it's a very welcome change. It completely changes the feel of combat 100%. It's a lot more dynamic and random. It's a lot more fun and dynamic than the tried and tested mechanics that WoW and Final Fantasy XIV displays in combat. In comparison, Final Fantasy XIV and WoW's combat feels very staid and old-fashioned in comparison. I think on launch, Wildstar didn't get really good looking from most players, including myself, because at that point, me anyway, I was too busy in Siege of Orgrimmar to really have the time to properly devote to Wildstar. However, there are a couple of reasons why Wildstar could succeed now, where it failed a year ago on retail release. First one is, of course, nothing to do with Wildstar, it's actually WoW itself. WoW players like myself are becoming really disenfranchised with the game, as you are well aware by this stage, because Blizzard are behaving very oddly over the last 6 months or so, and seem to be making a lot of odd, and I'm being charitable there, odd design decisions. With the raid loot changes and the no flight, they're basically the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot of design changes that went into Warlords. Everything rolled in together has just made me think World of Warcraft just isn't really the game for me anymore. Like I said, 3 months left on the sub, and that will expire at this stage. Even if the devs backtracked 180 and said, you know what, in 6.2 we're bringing flight back into the rest of Draenor, and we will have flight going forward at max level, similar to what was in MOP. I don't know if I'd resubscribe again, to be honest, at this stage. I mean, at the moment, I'm just feeling really disillusioned with Blizzard as a whole, and I don't think I want to play the game anymore. We'll see, though. The second reason why Wildstar could succeed now, where it didn't a year ago, is the timing and the model of the free-to-play announcement. Free-to-play is going to be coming in a couple of months, and especially with the model that they've chosen, where everything you can get with a sub you can earn in-game as a free player as well. There is nothing locked off to the free players at all. It will see a huge influx of players, and this is into a game that's bigger, brighter, more dynamic and more fun than World of Warcraft is at the moment, and has been for a long time. The designers on Wildstar seem to be a lot more enthusiastic and creative and up for actually making an effort with their game. Patches in Wildstar are released on a quarterly basis, so every 3 months you're getting a content patch, and it works. And it works well, nothing's delayed. They keep churning them out on a regular basis every 3 months. And it's not like you're waiting 6 months for an update and you get a selfie camera. It's not like that. You get extra story, dungeons, raids. It's just a lot more well cared for at the moment than World of Warcraft is. So you can probably expect a bit more Wildstar content coming on the channel. I will still keep doing WoW content in the meantime. Until we're at least certain of which direction WoW is headed in. But certainly I will still continue playing and covering WoW in the meantime, but expect going forward to be seeing a lot more of other games plus Wildstar. Final Fantasy XIV I don't think is going to make the cut for me. Like I said, it is a good game, it's solid, it's decent, it offers really good player progression in terms of class and jobs, but in comparison to Wildstar there is no real comparison really. Wildstar is just a lot more fun and colourful and bold, and yeah, it's just more my speed of game. So that's where I'm thinking at the minute. So if you like the video, hit like, comment or subscribe, and I will see you next time. Cheerio.